It was something like I don't know. Premise one, reality is either entirely conditioned or there exists at least one unconditioned being. Premise two, reality cannot be entirely conditioned. Conclusion, there exists at least one unconditioned being.
By unconditioned being there, you're just saying like a brute fact?
Uncaused, yeah.
Okay, so why exactly is that an argument for God? Like naturalism is consistent with the brute fact hypothesis.
I can give arguments why this brute fact would have to be immaterial, a mind.
Okay, what's your argument?
Yeah, so immaterial. I think the reason why it'd have to be immaterial is because...
Give an argument. I'm not interested in your monologue.
Okay, cool. So, premise one, if X is material, then X exists in space-time. X cannot exist in space-time. Therefore, X is not material.
Okay, what's the argument for premise two?
If X exists in space-time, then X is changing. X cannot change. Therefore, X does not exist in space-time.
Why would we accept that it's changing?
What do you think it means to exist in time?
Sorry, is it a troll?
Well, I just want to know what you think it means to exist in time.
You can give me an argument and say that's analytically true given your theory of time. I just want to know the argument.
Yeah, I think to exist in time means to be changing, yeah.
To exist in time is to change?
Yeah, I think to exist in time is to change, yeah.
Could you not accept that something is brute in its existence, but its motion is dependent on its existence? So the change is contingent on itself, but itself is brute?
I'm not sure what you mean. Can you repeat?
Like, why can't I accept that something that exists in space-time, it's brutally existent, but its motion is contingent on its brute existence?
I'm not sure what you mean by motion here.
Well, you seem to be sure when you were using the word motion earlier, so...
Yeah, if by motion you just mean like going from one state to another, in terms of like act, that's not the sort of change I'm referring to. I'm referring to like the gaining and losing of accidents.
Oh, we're using some kind of weird Aristotelian metaphysics to talk about this?
Yeah, probably, yeah. But like, I can just like give another reason. I could say something like, if X exists in space, then X possesses length, width, height. X does not possess length, width, and height. Therefore, X does not exist in space.
I thought we were talking about it being material. You said if it's material, it has to exist in space, but it doesn't exist in space. That's what you're trying to establish right now. So that's not even... That's what you just said was a non sequitur to the point you were trying to argue.
Yeah, no, because if it doesn't possess length, width, and height, then it can't exist in space-time. So it would be immaterial.
Sorry, but you were trying to make the argument that something material being brute couldn't exist in space.
Oh, wait, so you want to know why if something is brute, it cannot be material?
Yeah, that's what you said.
Did I not? Okay, look, if something is brute, first and foremost, like if something is brute, I just take that to mean that it is the cause of all dependent things, all conditioned things, yes?
The cause in like the sense that it actualized their potential, or what? Well, brute existence typically just means that there's no like explanation for its existence. But if you want to also posit that there's no explanation for its existence and it explains other things' existence, then sure.
Yeah, because the whole point of me positing this brute fact is I'm saying this is determinist of the causal chain. Okay, now this causal chain of dependent realities are all composite in some way. So length, width, and height, or whatever. And therefore, the determinist has to be non-composite, right?
What's the argument for that?
Because if it's composite, then it needs an explanation for why its parts are united the way that they are.
Oh yeah, so we are using these kind of Platonic notions of composite and metaphysics. So I mean, if this argument relies on Platonism, then I'm just going to ask you for an argument for all that metaphysical gibberish. But if not, then you can just reform it using, modern scientific theories.
As in, you want an argument for metaphysical compositions?
I want an argument for this Platonic metaphysical view.
Yeah, sure. Like, if things are composite, then they are posterior, or their existence is posterior to their parts. Do you disagree?
What do you mean by composite?
Made up of parts.
Typically, composite understood by Platonists is like made up of parts and united by a causal principle, which is like the disagreement here. So are you accepting that view, or is it just made up of parts?
Yeah, it's made up of parts here, but the reason why people like to say that they have to be united by a causal principle is because all of these theories of metaphysical composition, if we don't accept this extrinsic causal principle, have this sort of vicious circularity to them, right?
What's the vicious circularity?
Like, I think it's easier to explain if like prime matter in substantial form. You would say something like prime matter can't exist for a substantial form can't exist for a prime matter.
But why would we accept that prime matter or substantial form exists? It's all Platonic mumbo jumbo.
Yeah. So I think justification for prime matter is that prime matter first is defined as like the underlying substrate that all physical things are made of, right? And if we have this prime matter here, for example, let's say I have a block of marble and I use it to create a sculpture. That same block of marble had the potency to make anything, really.
Yeah, I'll just cut to the chase and explaining the issue with this hylomorphic view. Do you accept this kind of traditional notion of hylomorphism where form is what universalizes entities and the material cause is what particularizes it?
Form
the
is
principle of individuation.
Yeah, form is what universalizes them. It gives them the universal. Yeah.
Yeah. So something you would agree that if something is to exist, it has to have identity. Yes, it has to be particular.
If something is to exist, it has to be particular.
Right. Has to have identity.
Okay.
Well, the problem here is that there's this infinite regression up to prime matter, because prime matter is matter with no form, but it's unclear how exactly the matter would exist if it has no identity, given that it has, it's not composed of any more matter.
Yeah, that's what I just said. So, look, prime matter cannot exist without substantial form. That's the whole point of the regress. So, prime matter is always united to substantial form. In the case of particular things, you can't just have prime matter on its own.
Sorry, what exactly, when you say prime matter exists, presumably prime matter, does exist, right? Under your view?
Yeah, but it's always united to substantial form.
No, but that's not the problem. The problem is that the prime matter doesn't have a material component. That's the problem. It's not about whether or not it's universalized. The problem is that, according to the principle of individuation, in order for something to be particular, its particularness is made up by its material composite. But prime matter doesn't have a material composite, which means it's not particular, which is to say it doesn't have identity, which would exclude it from being able to exist.
Wait, sorry. I'm unclear on can you maybe send me something that says what you're saying here, because you're being a bit unclear.
What part about that was unclear?
I'm not sure how you've reasoned that A, prime matter has no material composites, and B, that prime matter has no identity.
Well, you know that prime matter has no material composites because definitionally you're saying it's like the irreducible material cause. So
yeah, it's this sort of thing that makes all other things up, yeah.
Right. There's no underlying material cause. Well, the problem is that according to Aristotelian metaphysics, in order to possess in order to be particular, your particularness of an entity is determined by its material cause, and its similarity and its universalness is determined by the form. But prime matter is incapable of possessing a material cause, which means it's incapable of being particular, which means it's incapable of possessing identity, which means it's incapable of existing.
Yeah, as in prime matter on its own cannot exist. Yeah, I just think this is really confused.
No, it's not on its own. Prime matter at all can't exist.
No, if prime matter is united to substantial form, that potential to be anything, right? Because that's what prime matter is. It's just the potency of material things to be anything. So that potency isn't actualized into a specific form. It's grounded into a specific particular thing. So the prime matter doesn't exist in that sense anymore, right? It's transformed. I don't think
it doesn't matter if prime matter. It doesn't matter if prime matter has form because it doesn't have a material cause. That's the point.
But that's fine. I'm saying that whenever you have the prime, let's say you have the block of marble, okay, and let's call this block of marble the prime matter. Now, when we actualize the potential of this block of marble to become, say, a sculpture, it's no longer prime matter. It's now a sculpture, right? It has the form of a sculpture. So the prime matter doesn't exist in the same mode. It's like a different. I don't think you understand what I'm saying.
That's not the kind of relationship that hylomorphism is positing. So, for example, if I have a house, right, my house is a house because of the form it has, and other houses are also houses because of the form they have. But my house is my house as opposed to my neighbor's house because of the material, because of the bricks, because everything it's made up of. And so you can do the same kind of regression of, what makes this thing a particular thing as opposed to another thing with the bricks and then the clay and then the dirt and the atoms. And eventually it's going to end up in prime matter. And so you ask, well, what gives identity to the prime matter in this stuff as opposed to prime matter in that stuff? But the problem is that there is no distinguishing characteristic. It's not particular because there is no material cause of the prime matter.
I agree.
Right, which is to say that the prime matter, that means that there's no identity at all. Because there's that means there's no particularness at all.
No, there is identity. There's no distinction between the prime matter and, say, myself and the prime matter and, say, you. So it is just literally the same prime matter, but they're just like qualitative duplicates of each other.
Then there's no distinguishability. There's no such thing as particulars because my house is only a different house insofar as when I regress all of the material causes, it is fundamentally different, but it's not. So there's no actual particular difference according to hylomorphism between my house and your house or anything or anything else.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you're phrasing it the right way, which is why I asked to see where you're getting this from. But I can just posit that the distinguishing feature between myself and you is some sort of accident or something, and then the theory saved. But I don't have to agree with all of the things that Aristotle posits when he talks about hylomorphism. All I agree with is the metaphysical composition where you have this sort of pure potential thing.
You agreed with the idea of, you already agreed with the principle of individuation.
No, I agree that prime matter is this sort of underlying substrate.
When you say prime matter, I want you to know that Aristotle falsely concludes that prime matter exists according to hylomorphism because he believes in the principle of individuation.
Yeah, but I'm telling you, I don't have to agree with everything Aristotle says. For example, Phaser.
How can you accept hylomorphism and not accept that view?
Yeah, Phaser, for example, believes that prime matter cannot exist independently of substantial form. But Phaser also argues for hylomorphism, so there's some sort of leeway in what you can and cannot exist.
That's not the thing. The problem is that the principle of individuation, that's an essential component of hylomorphic thought. You can talk about whether or not prime matter can exist independent of form. That's not the point. The point is that this kind of infinite regression argument against hylomorphism, that argument is, it applies because hylomorphism has to posit that matter distinguishes things.
Yeah, look, it might not be the matter itself. I think you're probably confused on this. It might be the arrangement of the matter, for example.
That's the form. The form does not distinguish it.
Okay, well, in that case, I don't have to agree with, once again, I don't have to agree with every literal thing that Aristotle says.
Okay, so then there's an even bigger fucking problem as a hylomorphist then. If you're not accepting the principle of individuation, which has its own problems, then what exactly makes me different than you?
I said, the arrangement of our particles in this.
That's the fucking form. That's what makes us similar.
But wait, so once again, you don't think that me and you are arranged in a different way?
Sorry, we might be arranged in particularly different ways. Particular things. Yeah, so we can fucking draw the regression we can draw the regression all the way back to the particular thing that you're in question here.
Okay, once again, you need to elaborate a bit on what you're talking about.
Look, if I have a house and I have another house, and they're identical in form.
Uh-huh.
They're in two different locations. What distinguishes the two houses?
Yeah. So once again, they can be identical in form insofar as their arrangement is necessary to instantiate that universal, right? But then they can be distinct in some other capacity insofar as, hold on a second, insofar as they are arranged in different ways accidentally, right? So for example, I can have two chairs, right? And they can both have the same form, which makes them similar. But one could be a fucking beanbag chair, and the other one could be a stool, right?
Yeah, I'm telling you, if I have two objects...
Let me just finish. So we have the same universal being instantiated here, that being the universal of the chair. The distinction is that they're accidentally arranged in different ways. And I'm saying that could be what he's talking about when he says the principle of integration, not the literal matter being made up of themselves.
No, it's also not true because, again, there's a difference between the form of a beanbag chair and the form of such and such and such. So you're just saying that your solution was this, to say that they're actually, just misinterpret the thought experiment of them being identical in form to be well, they're identical in form but not identical in other forms, which, obviously is just against the thought experiment. The thought experiment is that they're identical in form. So if I have two houses that are, arranged the exact same way, what's the difference between this house and the other?
That's not identical in form. That's qualitatively identical, right? Two things are identical in form would be like I don't know, me and you being identical in the form of a human or something like that. I don't know.
All right, it's identical in respect to all of its form. Like I don't know what's confusing.
Yes, so we have two identical things. Okay, sure.
No. I didn't say that they're identical in form. One is across the street from me.
Yeah, I don't take location to be a property, right? In that sense. So.
Oh no, I'm asking. It's obvious that they're not the fucking same. I'm assuming if a house was composed the exact same way, its form was the exact same. Every object was, had the exact same form as every other object in the house. All that stuff, right? They're the exact same in respect to form. These houses, okay? But one is across the street, and one of them I'm inside. And so my answer to you is what distinguishes the house I'm in from the house across from me.
Look. It's the spatial location. They're the same house in two different locations. I don't understand.
The spatial relationship. Well, okay. Do you think that objects are according to hylomorphism, objects are entirely composed of form and matter? Yes.
Sure.
Okay, so spatial distances are a distinguishing characteristic, presupposing that the matter is different.
Wait, hold on. Okay. I think this is really confused. So, under hylomorphism, I agree that there is this matter that all things are made of. And when this matter is arranged in different ways, you have forms, right? And universals. And you can have accidents such as spatial location or whatever you want to call them. That she doesn't matter. And these can further individuate objects or particularize objects. That's completely fine. All I'm saying here is that if we have two qualitatively identical objects, they can still be distinguished through spatial location.
Yeah, but spatial location, if I'll entertain the fucking Aristotelian jibber jabber. Spatial location is an accidental property of matter. You understand that?
Sure.
Okay, so it still presupposes there's a difference in matter.
No, it's the same matter, just in a different way. I don't understand.
Yeah, it's fucking different. They have different relationships. So just say the matter is different. You're presupposing the matter is different when you say there's a difference in space, because you're saying matter A is over here and matter B is over here.
So just to be clear, if I have a cube, right, and then I move this cube 5 centimeters to the right, is it the same cube or is it a different cube?
Oh, sorry, you're asking me about my theory of identity and aseity. That's irrelevant to hylomorphic view. I'm telling you that according to the hylomorphic view, that everything that exists is composed of matter and form. I'm going to say, look, we have my house example. The form's identical. You're saying the distinguishing characteristic is that one is over here and one is over there. But that presupposes that there's a difference in what they are because it's an accident, right? So you're really trying to say, if hylomorphism is true...
Hold on a second. I already told you I don't think spatial location is a property of the object itself.
Yeah, it's a relationship.
So wait, how is that relevant in saying that they're two different objects?
Because it's relevant because... I'm assuming that presupposes that there's two objects that can have a relationship to each other. It doesn't make sense to say that like an object has a relationship to itself that it's read. Relationships are obviously whenever you take an object and you try to compare it to another object.
Sorry, I'm not following what you're saying. Say that one more time.
Look, a relationship is a comparison of two objects. So you can say that one's bigger, one's taller, one's over there, one's over here. They're 5 feet away. That's a comparison. Now, whenever you say the difference between my house and your house is spatial relationship, that presupposes that the objects are different, which is the thing in question. So it's not a sufficient answer. Now, according to and I'm actually being really charitable. I'll just formulate like this to get straight to the point. According to hylomorphism, things are different in respect to their form or their matter, because that's the only thing that things are composed of. But given that, if the form is identical, then it's necessarily true according to hylomorphism that they're different because of their matter, which means that my argument about the infinite regression and the principle of individuation would apply here. That actually nothing is particular. Nothing is different than anything else.
Yeah, so once again, I think we can probably wrap this up as well. I don't think you're actually attacking the position. So I already told you.
Saying that. It's like obvious you're not attacking what I'm saying.
I said like once again, we can have these two objects that are qualitatively identical. In the sense that they are the same thing, and they would be in two different spots. And that's what you asked me initially. You said that they have the same exact form.
Yeah, but their matter's different, obviously.
Yeah, and I'm telling you whatever that means. Well, look, I'm telling you just here.
What do you mean whatever that means? It's
I'm saying here now that instead of understanding the matter as, look, the way we understand things being distinct is them being made up of, or what they are made up of, for example. I said we can just understand them as in, how they are arranged. It's like, for example, um,
Yeah, that's form, buddy.
hey,
I'm saying the
hold on a
form's
second, just
identical.
calm, just look, hold on a second. So I can say, for example,
Just repeat
uh,
something you said, bro.
holy shit, like,
I know
okay,
you keep
but,
repeating
the
something
issue,
you
but
said.
the
Holy
issue is,
poopy, nigga.
hold on, like, whatever you want to call it, form, whatever, that's irrelevant to me. What I'm saying is that we can understand in regards to how they're arranged. Okay, that's it. And so then,
Arrangement is fucking form. Like I don't know what you're trying to get at. The
yeah,
form's
so then
identical.
you trying to hold on a second. So then you trying to reduce it down to prime matter. If everything has arrangement, and prime matter is this thing that has no arrangement, then prime matter does not exist, right? It's that simple.
That's not what I'm saying. No, that's not what I fucking said. You don't understand.
Yeah, I clearly don't. You've been trying to explain it, just hasn't been working. So we can probably wrap this up as well.
It's a tracking error on your end. That's why it hasn't worked. But if you want to wrap it up, it's fine.
Yeah, so it's probably going to be shorter than my last conclusion. I guess I'll just say, brought up this contention regarding the principle of individuation, and he said something like, under Aristotelian views, under a hylomorphic view, if you have this particular thing, it is distinct from other particular things, or individual things in the same form because of its matter. But we can go through this regress and we'd eventually reach substantial form. And since substantial form is this thing that has no material cause, it would then follow that this thing has no identity, and if it has no identity, then it cannot exist. And immediately I thought this was a bit confused because no one ever argues that substantial form is this thing that exists in this sense, right? No one would argue that you can go through this regress and eventually you hit rock bottom, you hit substantial form. No one ever argues that. So I just told him, look, it could just be that what individuates certain things is the arrangement. And he said, yo, that's form. I was like, oh, that's fine, right? I gave him the example of the beanbag chair versus the rocking chair, whatever. And I said, look, they're both chairs, they have the same form, but they're arranged differently. And he's like, yeah, but one's a beanbag chair, it's the form of a beanbag chair. It's like, okay, that's fine. Whatever, they're individual, like, let's just say subforms. Cool. And I also disagreed with the regress bit, because I don't think you can go through regress and encounter substantial form in its own. I can hold to like this sort of gunk view where every physical thing will just endlessly have arrangement in some sort of way, endlessly, like in smaller and smaller forms or whatever. And that's just ultimately grounded by God or something. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I'm not too knowledgeable on what he was saying with the hylomorphic view, but even then it just didn't seem to be an issue. So I guess that'll be my conclusion. And when you conclude, just end the recording, please.
Yeah, look, here's the problem with these kind of Platonic Aristotelian views of metaphysics. To everyone who's unaware, hylomorphism is this view that everything in the universe is a composite of matter and form. Form is the way in which something is arranged, and matter is the stuff that's being arranged. Okay? The problem with this view is that it results in the idea that nothing is different than anything else, and here's why. According to this view, form, the way that things are arranged, is what makes objects similar in respect to each other. So, for example, if I have a chair over to my left and I have a chair to my right, but they're built the exact same, those are both similar in the respect that the matter, the wood, is arranged the same into the chair's shape. Okay, the form is the same. This is the idea of form universalizes objects and makes them like everything else. Matter, on the hylomorphic view, is what distinguishes objects from other objects. So the difference between my chair and your chair, even if they're built the exact same, is the fact that one is made of this matter and one's made of the other matter. The problem here is that, let's say I have a house and the house is across the street, and I have my house, and our houses are built the exact same way. They have the exact same form. There's the same amount of bricks. You can imagine, right? If we start to understand what makes my house different than the other house, we're going to say, well, my house is made of these bricks, and your house is made of those bricks, and well, my bricks are made of this clay, and this clay is made of this element, right? Blah, blah, blah. Eventually, hylomorphics are going to posit what's called prime matter and say, look, there is this prime matter that has no prior material cause that makes up everything. But hold up, what distinguishes the prime matter over here from the prime matter over there? Well, according to hylomorphism, it'd be the material cause, right? It'd be what it's made of. But oh wait, prime matter is not made of anything. And so there's no distinguishing characteristic according to hylomorphism between that house and my house, because ultimately there's no difference between the prime matter over there and the prime matter over here. And so the idea is that distinguishability of particulars or identity becomes impossible under hylomorphism. C just didn't track very well, and that's kind of what happened. It's not about the substantive form. The point is that according to hylomorphism and accounting for what makes things, they just can't account for it.
He left, by the way.
Yeah, he slammed. All right, Goons, that's loud, Mike.